We're on the third floor of the Rhode Island State House, Smith Hill, Providence, Rhode Island, in a segment we simply call Capitol Spotlight. We take a member of the General Assembly, take them aside for 5 minutes and talk to them about some of the issues that they have been working on and its impact on you, the Rhode Island citizen. It gives me a great deal of pleasure to welcome a gentleman who's appeared with us before, always answers our call. We're glad to have him back, the Honorable State Representative Bob DaSilva. Representative, great to see you.
Nice to see you, Dave, and thank you for inviting me back. I appreciate that.
It's always good to have you here, and I know the last time we had you on our half-hour show, straight from the gavel, we talked about some legislation you were working on that was examining the possibility of implementing all-day kindergarten here in Rhode Island. Give us an update on what's happened with that legislation.
I think this year we actually have a good shot of getting this thing through the legislature. We have Representative Joy Hearn, who's joined me in sponsoring the bill, and she's a big proponent of education. We're working hard on it. We had experts come in and give us a briefing on the benefits of all-day K. Also, on top of that, we have coming down the road, when the school funding formula is fully implemented, they will be reimbursing each community for a full-day position at a set amount of money. Now, those communities that retain half-day K, they're only going to be reimbursed for half of that position. So it's actually in the interest of those communities to have a full-day K program in place, that's financial-wise.
And I was reading some research on this. The research seems to indicate that the kids perform better and do better in school and achieve more if they have a full day of kindergarten. That's
absolutely correct, Dave. And to the point where we've actually received a $50 million grant the state of Rhode Island has to implement a pre-K program. So it'd be foolish for us to spend $50 million on a pre-K program and then have that student go into a half-day K.
Yeah, and that's really good news. I'm glad you brought up that $50 million because Rhode Island's been pretty successful with the Race to the Top program, garnering some real efficient monies that will help our education in the Ocean State. Plus, as you say, if they're going to put that emphasis on preschool kids, you don't want to drop the ball once the kids get to kindergarten.
Absolutely, and you know, I was blessed. I have 2 young children, as you know. I have a 10-year-old and I have one in kindergarten now. And in East Providence, we have full-day K, and the school committee this year implemented that for all schools throughout East Providence. So I benefit greatly from that program. My children have, and I'd like to see every child in Rhode Island have that same benefit.
Well, and the other thing is too, you know, maybe on a selfish level, to the parents, if their kid is in school all day in a safe environment, a learning environment, it takes a little pressure off them, especially working moms and dads.
Oh, it certainly does. I agree.
Now, what's going on with the DCYF legislation? You're reintroducing it, I understand, to help kids that are utilizing DCYF programs instead of being shipped out of state to stay here in Rhode Island. That's important to you.
Absolutely. That bill is going to create jobs here in Rhode Island. It's going to force the family court system and DCYF, before shipping a child out of state for services, to look within the state for those providers of services and give them the opportunity to come up with a program that fits the needs of that child. We export our children to some of these out-of-state facilities to a tune of millions of dollars a year. So we'd keep that money in-state, keep those jobs in-state, and keep those children, most importantly to me, is keep those children nearby their families, nearby their friends and people that can look in on them on a regular basis and check on them.
Yeah, and keeping in mind, too, the DCY will have an easier time to keep an eye on them and all of their support mechanisms here. And as you say, it's just good for the Rhode Island economy.
Absolutely, and I can't, if this bill, I'm going to be working hard on making sure that we get it through the both chambers of the House and the Senate. It costs us absolutely nothing. All it does is mandates that the court and DCYF allow those providers in the state of Rhode Island to come up with a program to meet the needs of that child.
You know, I know you represent East Providence, and you do a fine job with that. I see you more often, even around when you leave this building, in my community of Pawtucket, where you're a police officer, you're a lieutenant on the Pawtucket Police Department, and are serving that community very well. You've been, in the past, working on some strangulation legislation that you think needs to be toughened up here.
Absolutely. Victims of domestic violence who are strangled at the hands of their domestic partner are much more likely to end up as victims of homicide. And as a law enforcement officer, I see instances where people are strangled by their domestic partners, but because there's no serious visible injury, that person is not charged with a serious offense, they're charged with a misdemeanor. Now, last year we were lucky enough to get that bill passed in the House. A similar version of the bill passed in the Senate, but they didn't pass in each other's chambers, so the bill died. This year, we fine-tuned some of the language, and we hope that it can get through in both chambers.
Yeah, all you have to do is talk to a victim, somebody that has been strangled by a loved one or otherwise. It's pretty intimidating, it's very frightening, and of course it can be fatal.
Absolutely, and we've had some very high-profile cases recently here in Rhode Island. Unfortunately, we had domestic violence victims have expired, and it's a lot of those people, before they met their demise, had at some point in their lives been strangled by their domestic partner.
Representative Silva, thank you so much for talking to us, and thank the chief and your staff in Pawtucket for the fine job you do at the police department there, and you do a fine job on behalf of the constituents of East Providence.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, too, for watching. It's called Capitol Spotlight. We do it each and every week from the third floor of the Rhode Island State House.